G'day folks, here's a little what's in my GoPro time-lapse camera bag. So this is a good video for those just starting out with making time-lapses with GoPro and what kind of equipment they'll need. Probably one of the most important things you're going to need is a tripod. And what I use is the Mi Photo. I've been using it for quite some time. I've had it for about 2 years and I really like it. I've had it in salt water, snow, mud, you name it, it's been there and it's still going strong. It's not so much about the tripod, it's about mounting your camera so it's going to be stable. So you could clamp it to a fence or a tree or something, as long as it's not going to move. But ideally, a tripod's your best bet, and it doesn't have to be an expensive one. I think I paid about $200 for this guy, and it has done me well, but you can get much cheaper ones, and they will work as well. So let's go into the camera bag and we'll see what's all inside. So obviously the first thing we're going to need is our GoPro, and you can do these time lapses on the Hero 4, Hero 5. I've even done them on a Hero 5 session. They turn out pretty well that way as well. So camera. Now just going back to the tripod for a minute, you may want to pick up a couple spare of these adapter plates. They come with it, you actually get one with it, but what I like to do is I have these mounted on all my devices, and that way I don't have to mess around. You can just clamp them on and away you go. So yeah, you can pick these up. They're pretty standard size. I'll include the links for everything down in the description. The next thing you're going to need is a tripod mount, and these are very inexpensive. You can get some generic ones and they work just fine. But I would check some of the gear you have already. Quite often when you're buying little kits, they come with these. Sometimes they're already attached to a device or a pole. A lot of the GoPro poles have these already on the end of it that you can just unscrew. So before buying one, check to see if you already have one of these kicking around. And as you can see, they just attach to the adapter plate, which then just mounts onto our tripod like so. Or some tripods they'll just screw directly on, so it depends what kind of tripod you end up going with. Now the next thing is a frame. You can use the frame that comes with your GoPro. Works just fine. If you want to add a little bit of style, you can go with aluminum frame like that. These come in many different colors. I opted to go with red because it matches my tripod, and it just adds a little bit of style to your camera. Here it is mounted to my tripod now, and it doesn't affect the outcome of the time lapse. It just looks nice, stylish, so that's kind of a bonus option. So now the next thing for my GoPro time-lapse camera bag is power bank. And these things are mainly used if you're going to be doing like long overnight night lapses, but you know, you can keep your GoPro powered all day with this. Now just to show you what I'd like to do with them. So Anker comes with these nice little travel bags, and what I do is I plug the USB into it and then use a little drawstring and just hang it, and then you can plug it directly into your GoPro and that'll keep it powered. Now that's really important when you're doing an overnight time lapse, but unfortunately it's not waterproof that way. So there are different things you can do. Put a bag over it, cut a hole for the lens, and that tends to work not too bad. And if you are going to be getting a power bank, I usually recommend the Anker. This is their 10,000 milliamp. And you know, you can keep your GoPro charged for quite some time. On an empty, you can recharge it probably 6 to 7 times. So that's pretty good for the price. I think these are about $29. So the next thing on my list is the GoPro Jaws. This thing is very strong. It's very durable. It's a little pricey, but I always bring this with me because there's always a situation where this is more practical than the tripod. This can clamp onto a fence. It's got a receiver there for a GoPro buckle, and yeah, I actually use it quite a bit. You can just plug the GoPro directly into the top there with a buckle, or it comes with this little gooseneck extension. It just goes into the top, and then now your GoPro plugs into the top, and you can angle it whichever way you want. This thing is really practical, and it can go around fence poles, fence posts, boards, street signs. You know, you can clamp it onto pretty well anything. So for me, that is a definite must in my GoPro time-lapse camera bag. Now the next thing I use quite a bit are the rotating pano heads. And this one is a little more high tech than this one. This one's just like a standard egg timer. You attach a GoPro. This one does a full 360 degrees in 120 minutes. So, you just mount it, turn it to how far you want it to go, and just let it go. Fairly inexpensive, and it can create some really interesting time lapses with a nice panning effect. So that's nice. This one is the same thing, except it gives you much more control. You can reverse it, you can go frontwards, backwards. You can set the speed. So that's really nice if you only want to go 30 degrees, like you don't want a lot of motion, but you still want it to be, you still want to capture enough data, you can have it go a lot slower. So yeah, it's rechargeable, and I use this quite a bit actually. So it depends what kind of motion you want. If you want one that's going to give you a lot of versatility, a lot of options, this something is probably your best bet. Whereas this guy is fairly inexpensive, but you're kind of limited to what you can do with it. Now, the last thing I always bring with me is my GoPro suction cup kit. And I don't use this as much as the tripod or the GoPro Jaws, but I do use it. And this is really good. I find if you're in a hotel, you can stick it to a window if you're up high and you want to get a nice time lapse of the cityscape. This really works well. This is obviously not a necessity, but it does come in handy. I'm not going to show you all the parts in the bag. It comes with a whole bunch of different attachments and adapters and things for switching the camera to different angles. But basically, that is the suction cup. And when it comes to suction cups, I definitely don't recommend cheaping out. Now there's one last thing I want to show you here. Now this is an ND filter. Now this one is for the Hero 4, and basically it just slips on over the lens. I don't have one myself yet for the Hero 5. I have one on order. It should be here soon. So I'll include the links down below for them. So basically it's a dark piece of glass, and what it does is it forces the GoPro to take a longer exposure for every image during a time lapse. And what it does is it can smooth out the scene. For example, if it's a windy day, the camera has to take a longer exposure with this on, and the branches won't look as twitchy, grass is moving in the wind, because it's going to kind of blur everything a little bit. So that's really nice. The other nice thing it does is water. It really smooths out water. If you've got a lake in your scene and it's a little choppy, this can kind of make it more like a glass effect, so the water is nice and smooth. So this isn't something you would use for every time lapse, and it's definitely something that is not a necessity, but it does come in handy, and you can do some really nice effects with it. So make sure you stick around to my channel, because I've got some videos that are going to be coming hopefully in the next month where I show you some of the effects you can do with an ND filter on the Hero 5 and some comparisons, so stay tuned for that. So folks, that's basically my go-to gear for creating time lapses, usually what I have packed in my camera bag when I'm heading out. A lot of this equipment is not necessity, especially when you're just starting out. You can kind of prioritize what you need and just kind of get things as you go. You can kind of be a little frugal while shopping, for your tripod. You don't have to get a really expensive unit. Now with a tripod, if you do buy a better one, you're going to have it probably for life. The higher end ones are just made very solid. They're aluminum, light, and the one I bought, I'll probably be using it for the next 20 years. But you can get an inexpensive one. You can pick them up for about $30, and realistically, it'll do just fine. When it comes to like this GoPro clamp, it is definitely well worth the money. It's pricey, but it is a solid unit. I don't know if I could break this thing if I tried. But there are some third-party alternatives that are similar to this that are a fraction of the cost. So you kind of base it on, your budget. There just are some products that you just don't want to cheap out on. For example, your power bank. Stick with Anker. Anker is a trusted name. They make a lot of great products. They're well reviewed. Everybody who uses them loves them. And, you're not going to damage your GoPro or electronics. And suction cups. I don't recommend going with a cheap suction cup, because there are some really bad units available that just you will not be happy with, and you could chance losing your GoPro. Well, I hope this video was a help to those just starting out, and want to know what kind of equipment I use for creating time lapses and what kind of equipment you may want to pick up. So I will include all the links down below for all these products that you can check out further and do some price comparisons. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any of our upcoming videos, and we'll see you in the next one.